update on the left's great American gun grab. President Biden announcing several executive actions yesterday to address gun violence. He urged Congress to pass more aggressive measures. He also called the gun violence in this country an epidemic and an international embarrassment. But he promised none of his recommendations would actually impact the Second Amendment.
Nothing I'm about to recommend in any way impinges on the Second Amendment. But no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
So a bit of a warning there, perhaps. Already gun control activists are praising Biden's plan, while Second Amendment defenders and Republican leaders are outraged, some even taking steps to head off these executive orders. Let's welcome in now Newsmax White House correspondent Emerald Robinson for more on this and a closer look at what exactly is in Biden's gun plan, including his pick to head the ATF, or is it the AFT, Emerald? Because I guess the president got a little confused yesterday.
Well, I'm not sure if President Biden knows. Actually, AFT is a teachers union, and they give a lot of priority to teachers unions. So maybe that's where that came from. But yeah, let's talk about what's in the president's proposals on gun control. Clearly not sitting very well with a lot of red states already calling to buck those. But he has basically three big asks of the Department of Justice. He's asking the DOJ to propose a rule to regulate quote-unquote ghost guns. Those are kit guns that don't have a serial number and they're assembled at home. He's also asking that the DOJ propose legislation for the states to enact red flag laws. That essentially allows law enforcement and family members to petition the court to take away a person's right temporarily to have a firearm in the event that they think that they're a threat to their own safety or to the safety of others. He's also asking the DOJ to propose regulation on braces used for handguns that was allegedly used by the shooter in Boulder, Colorado, who was a Syrian immigrant. Now, beyond the Department of Justice, the Biden administration is looking to inject money into what they're calling community violence intervention programs like jobs training and jobs opportunities. He's also asked that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms conduct a study on gun trafficking, a la the 2000 landmark 2000 gun trafficking study that was instrumental in helping police determine the source of guns used in crimes. And then finally, as you said, he's nominated someone to head up the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. That name is David Chipman, and he's kind of a controversial figure, John.
Well, let's talk about Chipman in a second, too. But Emerald, I want to also focus on some of Biden's trademark gaffes yesterday. He says background checks aren't used at gun shows. We know that's false. Let's show that exchange.
Most people don't know it. You walk into a store and you buy a gun, you have a background check. But you go to a gun show, you can buy whatever you want and no background check.
Is it the president's belief that you do not have to undergo a background check when you are at a gun show?
No, it's not his belief. He believes that background checks should be universal.
Right, but he says no background check.
Well, we know what his...
Well, we saw Jen Psaki. I guess we did her a favor there getting out of that, but she was trying to clear up that yesterday. But, Emerald, if he doesn't even know what the laws are right now, he wants new ones, how is this going to go over?
Well, clearly it's not going over well. There's a lot of people pointing out that inconsistency in what he had to say about background checks at gun shows. As most people know, that anytime you buy a firearms from a licensed dealer, which they are at gun shows, it requires a background check. There is one caveat in where you have a transaction between private residents of the same state where neither one are a licensed dealer, that there's not a background check requirement, but that has nothing to do with the gun shows.
Oh, okay. So let's talk about Chipman a little bit. He worked with Gabby Giffords, who was there yesterday, and the Giffords Gun Control Group. But also last year on Reddit, he was postulating conspiracy theories about the Branch Davidian compound and David Koresh and some of his followers shooting down FBI helicopters in Waco, which, of course, never happened. But is he going to be called out for this?
Yeah, I think so. I think that Republican senators are definitely going to bring this up in questions about him. And look, what is really peculiar about Chipman making these claims regarding those helicopters in Waco, Texas, is that he was the case agent as a special agent for ATF during that time. So he knows specifically what happens. A lot of people, even on that Reddit thread, called him out about it, cited several sources of information that showed that that just was not true information. So the fact that he did put that out there is very concerning for many people outside of his anti-gun stance as the head of the ATF.
I read the post this morning. It was still up on Reddit. I couldn't believe it, but we're checking out for folks if they want to see who this guy is and what he's about. Emerald, thanks so much. We'll see you soon. All right, let's talk more about the left's gun grab and welcome in New Jersey Congressman Jeff Van Drew now. Congressman Van Drew is a member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Congressman, great to see you.
It's great to be here with you. Thank you very much.
Well, you know, we've heard so much from Democrats, and we've talked a lot about their desire to do a lot of this stuff without any Republican support. I can't imagine there is any or much Republican support for any of these gun control measures. I know 8 members of the Republican House members did sign on to one of their gun control measures. But what did you think of the president's speech yesterday and what he wants to do? He says no amendment to the Constitution is absolute. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I think 2 things were obvious yesterday, at least 2 things. One, he doesn't understand the Constitution, which is hard to believe for somebody that has spent so much time in government. But the Constitution is what guides us through, governing our nation. And I don't like those words because those words seem to indicate the beginning of no longer following or listening or understanding or caring about the United States Constitution. That is extremely dangerous and leads us down a very bad road. He's wrong. It is absolute. It is clear. There is a Second Amendment right. It's not complicated. Secondly, I think he's got to learn a little more about these issues he's speaking about. So, as you already pointed out, it's not the American Federation of Teachers that is going to receive an appointment. It's the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms that govern those issues, including firearms. So that was a little bit humorous. It'd be pretty funny to see a bunch of teachers involved with this. And thirdly, I don't think he understands the cause of the problem. Real quickly, good Americans, law-abiding Americans, keep receiving the blunt end of all this legislation. It doesn't make sense. The problem is crime. If you really wanted to do something, work on the crime increases that are occurring in New York City or in Chicago or in many other cities. Yeah. If you really want to do something, then you would worry about mental health and really start having good public policy for mental health. This is a cover when you don't have the proper public policy.
Part of me is left to think that this announcement, obviously timed with some of these incidents we've had recently, these mass shooting incidents, but it's really just, again, divert our attention away from what's happening on the border, divert our attention from the lies that the administration has been busted in as it relates to the Georgia voting story. There are several things here, and this is what they want to focus on. But I think there's also a theme woven into President Biden's speech yesterday that we hear from a lot of Democrats, and that's, look, either get on board with what we're trying to do right now, or we'll move ahead without you. We don't need Republican support. We don't need any support from the other side. We can do this with or without you, and most likely we'd rather do it without you.
This has been the worst example of a democracy in a republic the last few months that I can ever remember or have ever seen. And I've been involved in government for a long time. It's shameful. It's hurtful to the American public. We are supposed to work together. And it's not that Republicans don't want to. I know I want to, but these things are done. They're just laid out. Here we go. We're not going to listen to the Constitution. We're once again going to infringe on the rights of legal, good people who own guns. And we're not going to do anything really about the real cause of the problem, which is crime, the real cause of the problem, which is mental health, the real cause of the problem, which is undocumented immigration.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's talk about it.
Want to focus away.
Let's talk about the border right now because, again, I don't know what day we're in here, maybe the 12th day, but Kamala Harris has still not gone down to the border yet since she was tapped to be the border czar, maybe the 8th day. I'm losing track. We know she hasn't been down there yet. She did make a phone call to the president of Mexico, but I want to focus on the real cost, both the human cost here and the monetary cost. The Biden administration is spending at least $60 million a week on caring for more than 16,000 migrant teenagers and kids at DHS shelters. $60 million a week, Congressman. That is an astounding number.
$60 million a week, $800 per migrant per day. That's another astounding number.
Yeah.
It is mind-boggling. So the human cost and all the damage it's going to cost to our country, all the disease that's being brought in, all the problems that we're going to have with the drug cartel and more drugs being brought in, the shame of what's being done as literally the drug cartel literally buys these kids, brings them over, uses them as drug mules, sexually abuses them, physically abuses them. This is supposed to be a more humane way of dealing with immigration than what we were doing. We had agreements with the Northern Triangle. We had agreements with Mexico, places for them to stay. We were building borders. A sovereign nation must have borders.
Right.
It must have borders. And literally, this is just a complete and utter breakdown. I was speaking yesterday to a group of people, and I actually ended up speaking a little longer than I wanted to, and still didn't even cover half of the things that are going wrong. We've never seen this in our country. We've never seen so many things going wrong so quickly and so terribly. It really is sad. We have to save our nation.
The number of unaccompanied minors being apprehended is like 6 times what it was at the peak under the Trump administration. Also just across the river there, Congressman, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo included more than $2 billion in his budget proposal for illegal immigrants in that state. Makes people wonder, what are we doing in this country? Where are we allocating our resources? Where our real priorities are? We're out of time, unfortunately, Congressman. We got to run. Always look forward to talking to you again. We'll see you soon.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, we're real news for real people.